the troubling nexus of book bans, Mein Kampf, and the Trump administration's ideological roots. In the United States, the landscape of educational censorship has taken a disturbing turn under the administration of President Donald Trump, particularly in the realm of school libraries. A wave of book bans targeting titles that explore race, gender, and historical injustices has swept through schools, driven by executive orders and a conservative push to suppress diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) initiatives. Yet, in a chilling paradox, Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf, a manifesto of hate and the ideological foundation of Nazi Germany, has been permitted to remain in certain academic libraries, most notably at the U.S. Naval Academy. This selective censorship, coupled with historical ties to Nazi sympathies and white power leanings within the Trump family, the Musk family, and key administration figures like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, reveals a troubling ideological undercurrent that explains why such a text might be tolerated while innocence books are purged. Trump's historical connection to Mein Kampf. Donald Trump's personal history with Mein Kampf has long been a subject of controversy, raising questions about his ideological leanings. In a 1990 Vanity Fair article, Ivana Trump, his first wife, told her lawyer that Trump kept a book of Hitler's collected speeches, My New Order, in a bedside cabinet, suggesting he read it regularly. When questioned, Trump claimed the book was Mein Kampf, gifted by a friend, Marty Davis, whom he described as Jewish, and insisted he had never read it. However, Ivana's account painted a different picture, noting that a friend of Trump's would jokingly click his heels and say, Heil Hitler, when visiting, hinting at a troubling fascination within Trump's inner circle. Further, posts on X have referenced unverified claims that Trump's father, Fred Trump, was an avid reader of Mein Kampf, allegedly keeping copies in the family's bathroom. While these claims lack primary source corroboration, they align with historical accounts of Fred Trump's discriminatory practices. As a real estate developer, Fred was investigated for racial discrimination against black tenants, and in 1927 he was arrested at a Ku Klux Klan rally in Queens, though he was not convicted. These incidents suggest a family environment that may have been receptive to white supremacist ideologies, potentially influencing Donald Trump's worldview. Trump's public rhetoric has only fueled these concerns. During his presidency and 2024 campaign, he repeatedly used language echoing Hitler's, describing immigrants as poisoning the blood of our country and political opponents as vermin. Despite denying having read Mein Kampf, Trump's reported admiration for Hitler's leadership style, praising him for doing good things like economic revival and expressing a desire for generals like Hitler had, has been documented by former aides like John Kelly. These connections suggest that Trump's familiarity with Nazi ideology, whether through direct reading or cultural osmosis, may inform his governance and policy decisions. The Musk family's troubling ties. Elon Musk, a close ally of Trump and co-leader of the administration's Department of Government Efficiency, also has familial and personal ties to far-right ideologies that amplify concerns about the administration's tolerance for Mein Kampf. Musk's father, Errol Musk, has publicly expressed controversial views, including support for apartheid-era policies in South Africa and racially charged statements. Elon Musk himself grew up in a privileged white family during apartheid, an environment that critics argue shaped his worldview. Musk's recent actions have further alarmed observers. On January 20, 2025, at a rally celebrating Trump's second inauguration, Musk made a gesture widely interpreted as a Nazi or fascist Roman salute, sparking outrage. While Musk dismissed the accusations as tired and claimed it was an expression of enthusiasm, neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups celebrated the gesture, with figures like Nick Fuentes and Thomas Sewell hailing it as a white power moment. Musk's estranged daughter, Vivian Jenna Wilson, condemned the gesture, implying it was a deliberate nod to fascist symbolism. Additionally, Musk's endorsement of Germany's far-right Alternative for Deutschland, AfD party, which has ties to neo-Nazis, and his promotion of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory further align him with white nationalist rhetoric. Pete Hegseth's role in ideological alignment. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who oversaw the Naval Academy's library purge, also has ties to far-right ideologies that contextualize the decision to retain Mein Kampf. Hegseth, a vocal critic of woke policies, has been linked to white nationalist sentiments through his advocacy for anti-immigrant and anti-DEI policies. His decision to remove 381 titles, including I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings and memorializing the Holocaust, while sparing Mein Kampf and the Camp of the Saints, a novel embraced by white supremacists, has been widely criticized as reflecting a selective tolerance for hate-filled texts. Hegseth's alignment with Trump's anti-immigrant rhetoric and his role in implementing policies that prioritize traditional values over inclusivity suggest an ideological compatibility with the administration's broader agenda. He also has the Crusader Cross tattooed on his chest, a historically known white supremacy symbol, the Naval Academy and nationwide implications. The U.S. Naval Academy's decision to retain Mein Kampf while banning books that address racial and gender injustices is a stark illustration of this ideological bias. Under Hegseth's directive, the Academy's library was cleansed of titles deemed too progressive, yet Hitler's manifesto was spared, ostensibly for its historical value. This decision is particularly alarming given the Academy's role in shaping future military leaders, who are expected to uphold democratic values and combat extremism. The presence of Mein Kampf in such a context risks normalizing its ideas, especially when coupled with the administration's broader policies. Nationwide, Trump's educational policies, including executive orders like ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling, have empowered schools to remove thousands of books addressing systemic racism, gender identity, and historical trauma. According to PEN America, over 10,000 book bans were recorded in the 2023-24 school year alone. The selective allowance of Mein Kampf in academic settings, while innocence books like Genderqueer and All Boys Aren't Blue are banned, reflects a deliberate prioritization of narratives that align with white supremacist or authoritarian ideologies over those that foster empathy and critical thinking, a coherent ideological pattern. The historical and personal connections to Nazi sympathies and white power leanings within the Trump and Musk families, combined with Hegseth's far-right affiliations, provide a coherent explanation for why Mein Kampf might be tolerated in educational settings. Trump's reported fascination with Hitler's rhetoric, Musk's provocative gestures and endorsements, and Hegseth's selective censorship all point to an administration that is comfortable with ideologies that echo the authoritarianism and racial hierarchies of the past. This pattern is further evidenced by Trump's policies, which prioritize anti-immigrant sentiment, dismantle DEI initiatives, and suppress narratives that challenge traditional power structures. The allowance of Mein Kampf for naval officers and students, while books that promote inclusivity are banned, is not an aberration, but a logical extension of this worldview. It suggests an educational system that values historical texts of hate over contemporary works of healing, potentially grooming a generation of leaders who are exposed to extremist ideologies without the counterbalance of diverse perspectives. As posts on X have noted, this selective censorship shows who they are, with users like Mickey Sherrill urging the public to believe them when they tell you who they are, a call to vigilance. The nexus of book bans, Mein Kampf's persistence, and the ideological roots of Trump, Musk, and Hegseth demands urgent attention. Educators, parents, and students must resist this censorship by advocating for the restoration of banned books and challenging the normalization of hate-filled texts. The fight is not just about library shelves, but about the values that will shape America's future. As Ray Bradbury warned in Fahrenheit 451, a novel that, tellingly, survived the Naval Academy's purge, censorship is a precursor to tyranny. The tolerance of Mein Kampf in the face of widespread bans on innocence books is a clarion call to defend education, democracy, and the principles of justice that define a free society. By Scott Young, aka Sinfamous Gamer,